Chapter 15, Forcible Entry. Let's first define what forcible entry is. It is the tools, tactics, and reasons for gaining access to a structure or area that is locked, blocked, or otherwise inaccessible. We mostly use forcible entry to gain access to a structure of some sort, whether this be a house, apartment, or a business. This includes fences, gates, and other perimeters. The officer or incident commander will decide when, where, and how to force entry. Let's discuss some of the times we might force entry and the ramifications. If there is an urgent medical, we need to get inside by any means necessary. If there is an active fire, same thing. In both these cases, we have what we call exigent circumstances. This means that there is a reason to believe that delaying entry would pose significant risk to health, life, or property damage that would exceed a person's Fourth Amendment right to privacy or protection from unauthorized search and seizure. So we have been handed a no-knock warrant. Use it carefully. If there is a nuisance alarm going off in a building, then we need to take the time to locate a key holder. If someone stubbed their toe, that is not a reason to come crashing in through the front door. Some things are urgent, and when they are, we need to make a note of it over the radio that we're going to be forcing entry. If a member of law enforcement is there, then that's a bonus, but it is absolutely not a requirement. We also have a legal responsibility to secure the property when we leave, so keep this in mind when you go breaking stuff. A cheap chain and cheap padlock can go a long way towards safeguarding someone's home or business after you broke into it. Before we go breaking stuff, we need to try before we pry. Remember this one. Try before you pry. This means check every door and window to see if there's a non-invasive way in. You would be amazed at how often someone kicks down the front door when the back porch hasn't been locked in 30 years. Please don't kick down doors. We have tools for that. To negotiate the physical obstacles stopping you from gaining access, you need to understand the systems that are in place. Keep in mind that these systems are designed to keep people out, but you have to be able to defeat them while causing as little damage as possible to get in. Sometimes as little as possible is still a lot. These systems are doors, lock sets, windows, walls, security gates, and bars. Let's look at them individually on the following slides. Door systems are made up of three parts. There is the physical door itself, the door frame, and the hardware holding the pieces together. Every door will have a lock set, knob, or handle of some sort. The door itself may be made of hollow or solid wood, steel with steel core, steel with foam core, or composite materials like fiberglass. There are also doors made of glass, and then there are screen and storm doors. A door will typically swing in one direction. In a residence, an entry door will swing inward, and the interior doors will swing inwards towards individual rooms as well. But interior doors may be spun around to swing outward depending on the occupant's preference. In a commercial building, entry doors always swing outward, and interior doors should always swing out from rooms and into egress routes like hallways. Door systems are made up of three pieces: the door, the frame, and the lock set. The door is the physical barrier. It may be solid, hollow, glass, metal, wood, fiberglass, or any combination of those materials. The frame is the outer housing secured to the wall. It will have stops of some sort that only allows the door to operate in one direction. The lock set is the hardware that secures the door to the frame and makes it work. This is the hinges and latching mechanism. Most doors have hinges on them and operate by swinging in a single direction. We classify this as either inward or outward swinging. The direction it swings will be based on the building and its occupancy. A residential entry door in the United States will typically swing inward. All residential interior doors should swing into the room you're entering so that they don't block a narrow area like a hallway. Exceptions may be a closet or small bathroom. This can create complications because people are often laying right where that door needs to swing. This results in just taking the whole thing out. A commercial door in the United States should swing outward so that people can escape quickly and not get bound up by doors. There are exceptions to this. In some areas of high snow, an outward swinging door is unheard of because when it snows 3 feet, now you can't get out. Some places don't ever use an inward swinging door because it's much easier for an intruder to kick in. Let's look at some pictures. If you look at the picture on the left, you can see a door without any trim. This is the view from the inside of the house of an exterior door. You can see that the hinges on the right poke out from the side facing us. That means that the door is going to swing towards us when opened. In the middle picture is a view from the outside of an outward swinging exterior door. The hinges are still on the right. The door is still going to swing towards us when we open it. Don't get too hung up on trying to figure out which way the door is going to swing based upon a statistic or what you think of as a norm. If someone spins the frame around on either of these doors, they just threw the entire plan out the window. Now, when we introduce a set of hinges like what we see on the right-hand picture, we can't see them anyway. Some of these newer style doors don't even have a frame to use for reference. Most modern doors aren't just one piece. A solid core door can be a solid slab of wood, but they are also made with the metal skin on the outside. Solid core doors are highly fire resistant and hard to force because there is little to no flex. A hollow core door is a couple of pieces of thin metal, wood, or synthetic with some foam, air, or cardboard in between them. If you ever peel apart a door in an old trailer, you will find that there just isn't much in there. A business storefront may have a glass door that is tempered glass surrounded by a heavy aluminum frame. In the bottom left is a sketch of a hollow core door illustrating how it is just some wavy cardboard inside. The right-hand photo shows a simple cardboard honeycomb when you peel apart a hollow core door. This doesn't have much of a fire resistance rating, but closing even this cheapest of the cheap doors has preserved survival space in houses countless times. Close your door when you go to bed. Let's talk a bit about sliding glass and revolving doors. For sliding doors, it's just a big sheet of tempered glass with a wooden or aluminum frame around it. For entry, we really want to avoid breaking the glass because that makes a giant hole or flow path that we can't control. Some better ways to gain entry are lifting the door up and popping out the bottom because the whole thing is sitting on little plastic rollers. We may be able to break the latch hook where it connects to the wall. This isn't always a solution though because it is common for people to throw a board in the track so you can't slide it. What we don't want to do is break the glass, but if it comes down to that, a Halligan pick to the corner will do the trick. If it is laminated glass, start with a hole near the latch so you can reach through and unlock it. You can always go bigger, but you can't go smaller. For revolving doors, we have a few options. Let's start with the most practical. Revolving doors are required to have a regular ADA compliant swing door next to them. You can see in the picture that not only does it have a crash bar, it also has a single action pull station. We can force this swing door and defeat the crash bar. We'd even break this glass as opposed to breaking the glass in the revolving door. If for some reason this side door isn't an option, the leaves of the revolving door will fold flat as we can see in the illustration on the bottom left. It is hard, but it will work. Overhead doors include sectional doors along with roll-up doors. They present a unique challenge not only because of their size, but also their function. Overhead doors frequently don't operate properly when you have access, and it's even worse when you have to force your way in. Residential doors are normally made from wood, fiberglass, or very thin sheet metal. Commercial doors are made from the same materials, only heavy duty. Let's get the obvious ones out of the way. Always try before you pry, and look for a regular man door that may be right around the corner. If you must take the door, then there isn't much we can do without causing permanent damage. We can cut a triangle-shaped hole about hip high in the middle. If you reach in there, you may be able to twist the latch mechanism and raise the door. If there is an automatic opener, then that is likely the only thing securing the door. Cut a hole high in center, reach in with the long pike pole or hook, and pull the string to release the door from the opener. Beyond that, it's going to be a lot of cutting. Start high with your rotary saw on the left side of the door and make a vertical cut straight down all the way to the ground. You need to cut the surface material and the framework all the way through, including the bottom beam. Now go back to the top of your cut and make a deep horizontal cut all the way to the right. You have to cut through everything. Take a pike pole or New York hook and peel that door outward, and you should have something like what we see in the picture on the screen. That fine-looking mustache on the screen belongs to Dave Brazels. I took a screenshot from one of his videos for this. Dave has been making training videos for a long time. I stand behind everything he says. I recommend you look him up on YouTube. Let's move on to lock sets. There are 3 standard types. The first one we will address is a board lock set. This is just a plain old ordinary doorknob that you would find on a front door. This is undoubtedly the most common type of lock set that you will encounter in your career. This one is pretty easy. We can drive a Halligan between the door slab and door jamb and then pry it open. We can rip the doorknob off and manually push the latch over. And we can probably just hit the door with a sledgehammer near the knob and get right in. Before we try any of these, let's consider a less destructive option. We can usually slide a shove knife between the door and the jamb to release the latch and leave no more than a minor scuff mark. For a mortise lock, we can bang and pry to get the door open just like we would for the board lock set, but fortunately we have a less destructive option here as well. There are a bunch of mortise type locks out there, and some of them have a special decorative face. Just pop that right off. We need to pull the cylinder that takes the key on this lock. We don't even need to worry about the handle. The lock cylinder is usually held in place by a set screw that is only accessible with the door open. We can rip it straight out with an A tool or K tool, or we may be able to get a pair of pliers on it and twist it back and forth until the set screw fails. From here, we simply reach in and spin the latch for entry. The last lock set we will look at is called a rim lock. Most of these have just a round lock cylinder on the outside and a surface-mounted lock with thumb knob inside. We can tell it's a rim lock because the cylinder will be set farther away from the door than a mortise lock. Same process. Remove the trim from around the cylinder and set your K tool or A tool and pry it straight out. This cylinder is held with screws from the opposite side instead of a set screw. Now that we have removed the cylinder, we can just spin the lock. If that isn't working, place the pick of your Halligan in the hole and drive the surface mount portion off of the door. I want to emphasize that these are techniques we use when it is a non-emergent situation, like just an alarm with nothing showing or someone stuck with no danger. If there is an emergency that requires immediate access, then break that door down. Let's look at a few examples of what is classified as advanced hardware, starting with smart and electric locks. These are touchpad and Bluetooth enabled locks. We would be an attorney trying to hack the codes on these. All this does is runs a little actuator inside the case. Rip this sucker off the door, and inside you will find a bore type lock or mortise type lock. Remove the electronic part, and the process is the same as on previous slides. Let's move on to panic bars and crash bars. These two devices operate from a shared principle. People inside a building are all rushing to get out at once. If all else fails, the person in front will get smashed up against it and it will open. From the outside, however, we will need a plan. If this is a single door, we can cut a slit in the middle and use a framing square to reach through and hit the release bar. If it is a double door, then the same will work, but if there's just a rubber seal between them, then we can often use a tool to reach through and hit the bar. For padlocks, our obvious option is to cut the shackle that goes through the hasp. If you have a higher quality padlock that you can't get the bolt cutters on, then you can slide the pike of your Halligan on there and whack it with a flathead axe. Most of the time, the $2 hasp will break before the $20 padlock does, and that's just fine with me. Your rotary saw can cut through this lock without too much difficulty. If all else fails, force your way through with a Halligan and flathead axe. Sometimes they throw a zinger at us. On the left, we see several locks on a door. This may seem a bit extreme, but if someone is hiding something like drugs, stolen property, or a human trafficking operation, they may put multiple locks on a door. Don't waste your time trying to defeat these individually. Move to the hinge side because a lay person will very rarely fortify that side of the door. On the right-hand side, you see a classic drop bar, also called a drawbar. If this is bolted to the door itself, you will be able to see the carriage bolts. If they are flat, then you need to put the pike of your Halligan against them to drive them out. If they are round, you may need to grind the heads off so you can drive them out that way. Another option is to cut a slit in the door and push the bar up to release it. Homes and businesses have lots of glass in them. They are used for decoration, lighting, and sometimes load-bearing components. For forcible entry purposes, we will mostly be dealing with glass that is found in windows and doors. The first type of glass we will cover is annealed glass. This type of glass is found in older doors and both old and new windows. When it reaches its failure point, it breaks into large, unpredictable, razor-sharp pieces. We have to clear the window with a tool because this will shred your bunker gear. You can likely punch your hand through this glass, but it makes more sense to just whack it with just about any tool that there is. You can even just hit it with the nozzle and it will break. Tempered glass is also referred to as safety glass. It is harder to break, but when it does, it shatters into a million billion little pieces. This is the same glass that the back window of a car is made of. Laminated glass and wired glass are made to be hard to destroy, and it's usually rated for fires and hurricanes. You can't just knock this out. You'll have to cut it with a hand saw or power saw. Hitting it with a Halligan will just knock a bunch of holes in it. Remember that breaking glass is irreversible. You can't just put it back together. You have created a flow path that you can't control and an access point to a building that you can't secure. Now, it may be better to break a small window that you can reach through to access a locking mechanism than it is to rip a door off its hinges, but that will all depend on the circumstances and the officer calling the shots. When all else fails and you are trapped or up against a fortified door, you can always go through the wall. The type of wall will determine the method you use. If you are trying to gain access to a newer construction house, this will be a piece of cake. You can cut through new vinyl siding with a utility knife and push your hand through the insulation and drywall and bam, you're now in the house. Metal siding isn't that much harder. If it is corrugated sheets, then you likely have to cut it with a rotary saw. If you're on the inside of a house, just use your Halligan to rip the wall down like you would during overhaul. You can punch and kick your way through it if you have to. Masonry walls are a different challenge. They will require a rotary saw to get through with any efficiency. If all you have is hand tools, I hope you have a Halligan and a striking tool. There are a few stories out there of people chipping away at mortar between the bricks in order to create an egress path. This isn't a good plan and is rarely successful. If you find yourself chipping away at a brick with your helmet, it's a good time to practice your Mayday. This is just a small sampling of forcible entry. We could go on for hours and hours about the endless number of possibilities that we could encounter. Your forcible entry training isn't intended to create an exact step-by-step textbook solution for each problem you face. The goal of forcible entry training is to understand the way things are made and put together and how your tools and tactics work. Combining these skills in various ways hopefully will allow you to use critical thinking and work through anything that you run into. Lastly, remember that the amount of force you use should be directly related to the severity of the problem. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to myself or one of your other instructors. I thank you for your time.